Back then it was collect calls. I call my mom, and I just basically tell her pack your bags or get into Atlanta, and I still hear her screams, and then she called my dad three-way, and we cried, we laughed.
At just 19 years old, Devon Bean stepped onto the Olympic track in Atlanta, representing Bermuda in the 100 meters. Today, nearly 3 decades later, he still holds the national record. But behind his history, his time, and his sacrifice is a story about burden, a system that didn't show up, and the ugly beauty behind a young boy's dream realized as a man.
I'm just a prime example of an athlete that never had a local sponsorship, turned on, called me back, that sort of thing. So if it wasn't for my family, particularly my dad, my mom, my stepbrother, that was funding me out of their own pocket, my career would have long stopped. I was working illegally just to fund or help support my childhood dream of becoming a professional track athlete.
He had no government support, no Bermuda Olympic Association scholarship, no major or minor local sponsorship. He tried for years for support, but to no avail. His Olympic dream was kept alive by family alone, and when it became too much, he walked away.
I felt that I had this big burden on my shoulder to prove that I was worthy of receiving funding. So I went to competitions, putting extra pressure on myself, and I wasn't able to compete up to the level that I needed to. I became what was called a choke artist because I had so much pressure on. I figured I owed this person, I owed my mom, I owed Bermuda, I owed my dad all this sacrifice, and all I wanted to do is make them proud.
Recently, Bermuda held the National Track and Field Championships. Back in 1996, Devon recalls when the Bermuda Olympic Association urged him to compete in that same event. He showed up, pulled a hamstring, and then was reminded that he is in this alone. Although two independent individuals were willing to assist, Devon had no medical help and no follow-up from Bermuda's athletic organizations. It was his university in the United States that stepped in to treat him for free. Without them, he says he would not have made it to the Olympic Games.
I was a new kid on the block, so the executive at the time wanted me to come home and show my face and compete in our national championships. I wanted to stay in California to train, but they thought it was a good idea for me to come back. But long story short, I came back, competed in our national championships, and pulled my hamstring about 8 weeks right before Atlanta. But I didn't have any medical coverage. So my dad flew me back out immediately to California, and my school, along with a place called the Deep Tissue Center, worked on me basically for free. If not, I would have been stuck here in Bermuda without any coverage. And, Dad would have had to come out of his pocket and pay for physio and x-rays. And back then, it wasn't such thing as MRIs.
Competing with Bermuda on his back, but never in his pockets. He could have left it all behind, but he stayed and gave back. Despite his high-level coaching certifications that could land him a job anywhere in the U.S., he coaches for free in Bermuda. His goal? Scholarships, not medals.
I'm a parent. I know what it costs to pay for certain activities with my children, and it's not cheap. So if I can help out a family financially by offering my services, it's something that I feel the love for to give back to my community.
With his sights on the next generation, Olympian Devon Bean is leading 4 sprinters on a mission to break Bermuda's 4x100-meter men's national relay record, a record untouched since the 1976 Olympic Games in Montreal, Canada, by Mike Sharp, Dennis Trott, Calvin Dill, and Gregory Simons.
We are in a unique situation right now for Bermuda male sprinters. We have at least 6 or 7 athletes that are running 10.6, 10.5 or faster. And I'm sure they're going to push each other to break that record at some sort. We haven't had this many sprinters collectively since the 1970s.
This next generation is being led by a coach who understands the cost of running alone. While Devon was funding his dream out of pocket, Bermuda's first female Olympic swimmer, Jenny Smatt, had a different experience.
We had a very active association at that time where they sought corporate sponsorship on our behalf. I personally was sponsored by Schroeder's Bermuda Limited. At that time, it was a $10,000 amount, and it went quite far to help us with training in Florida and overseas meets. We did not have to pay at all for our national representation at the age group level.
If you had to pay your own way, do you think getting to the Olympics would have still been possible?
Definitely not.
Times have changed, and there are many athletes in many sports having to pay to represent Bermuda on the global stage out of pocket. Olympian Jenny Smatt saw the difference and stepped up. She created Performance Pathways with the purpose to provide funding for national level adolescents and to provide a development plan to streamline identifying top athletes at the primary level. Last month, Performance Pathways gained its charity status. They have already distributed $14,000 to Bermuda's future elite athletes.
And what we're trying to do is ensure that funds are not a barrier to the training, access to training and development that allows them to reach their highest potential.
Jenny sits on multiple sport governing boards in Bermuda and understands the behind-the-scenes complexities. But her point is clear. Support should be easier to access and consistent.
There's a lot of information that's out there, but parents don't know where to go for it. One of the hopes for Performance Pathways and the vision is a central repository for information for parents to go. What does a good training plan look like? What do I need to consider when I'm looking at various school opportunities for my child?
Both Devon and Jenny are stepping in to keep Bermudian athletes representing Bermuda in a world where so many athletes are now changing citizenship for better support. Devon Bean didn't change his nationality for better support, although he could have, like top athlete Troy Douglas, a Bermudian who became a UK citizen in Holland who thrived under British funding. Bean thinks back to how different his career could have been, but he stayed. And now his focus isn't recognition, it's impact. For Bermuda's next athletes, it may not be the medals, which are sure to come, that matter most, but the people who turned their own struggles into support systems, choosing to build what they once needed.